So now it's time to get back to the third and final part of a variable, and that's its value. Now, what I mean by that is how do we actually store a value inside the bucket, or how do we sit people at the table? The process is very simple in nature, but it can be a little counterintuitive to what you've already learned in life. So if I wrote something, if I wrote something down here such as like x is equal to 5, as we talked about in a few modules ago, that is really stating an equality. That is saying that 5 is equal to x, or x holds the value 5. So really they're saying 5 is equal to 5. And that's true in math. However, we're going to use this equal sign for an entirely different purpose inside of our programs. We're going to use it as what we call an assignment operator. We're going to use the equal sign as saying that we are going to assign a value to a given variable with this operator. So here's an example. I might say something like username is assigned the value Steve. Now I put that in quotes because it is text. Now if we read this, it evaluates the right hand side first. It says, well, Steve is equal to Steve. Assign it to the variable username. Essentially it goes and finds username. If this is our RAM, let's say username is taking up these slots. It says go put the value Steve in that space. So Steve would be here. The same thing can be done for rec area. We could say rec area is equal to 10.3. So whatever space is being used up for rec area, let's say it's that one, rec area, stored the value 10.3. 10.3. Now this seems very straightforward, but there's actually a number of different things we can put inside or we can use inside of these assignment statements. And the first thing is what you see right here. These are what's called literal values. They have the value of exactly what you see. There's no hidden message or anything like that. It's exactly what you see. However, there's other things that you can put on the right hand side of that equal sign. You could do another variable. So I might have rec area is assigned the value length times width, where length and width would be variables. That's perfectly valid. You could also do a complex expression. You might be doing like the Pythagorean theorem or something like that. It doesn't really matter as long as you adhere to a very basic rule. The right hand side must eventually evaluate to a result that has the same data type that we're expecting to store on the left hand side. So for example, length times width should return me a number, and then I could store that number inside rec area. If it's not returning me a number, it's returning me text for some reason, then that means that it still thinks that the values that you're quote-unquote mathematically dealing with are being concatenated or dealt with in another way. So let's take another backtrack and let's look at this assignment operator just one more time. The very easiest way I like to look at it is the value, or the what, is going to be stored in the where. So the where is always on the left hand side of the equal sign, and the what is always on the right hand side of the equal sign. And that cannot change. If we change that, it will break our syntax. It will give us an error, a global error in our program. So that's the way we can handle our values. So let's try a little bit of an example. Let's go over to Sublime. And here's our basic program. Now let's say that I want to create a simple program that calculates and displays the area of a rectangle. We're just going to make up values for it. It doesn't really make a difference. Now we said that we always want to define our variables higher than when we use it. We have to do that. So just to keep this simple, let's go by the simple rule that we're always going to put our variables for now. Later on that's going to change in the course. But for now, let's define all of our variables at the top of the program. So if I'm creating a program that calculates the area of a rectangle, Well, that would imply that I need the dimensions themselves of the rectangle. So I might say var rec length. And I'm going to need one for the width, var rec area. Or sorry, not rec area, rec width. And then finally, as I was just writing a second ago, oh, that's his car. As I was saying a second ago, we need to actually calculate the area, so we're going to need a variable for that. Var rec area. So we have all the three major pieces of data. What do we do next? Well, some of them are going to need some values. So let's say we have some given information that says rec length has the value 5. And rec width has the value 3.4. So those are our two pieces of given information. Now we need to calculate the actual result. Well, we know that the area for a rectangle is length times width. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to say rec area is equal to rec length. Now, I say it's equal to, but that's really a lie. We know that we're really saying it's assigned the value rec length multiplied by rec width. Now I need to specify a few things and mention a few things before you get too carried away here. First of all, you need to realize that it will completely evaluate the right-hand side before it even attempts the assignment statement. Secondly, it will follow proper Bedmas rules, which means brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction in that order. So if you wanted something to happen, let's say we were calculating somebody's BMI, then if my memory serves me, it's their weight divided by their height squared. So if I were to write that out, I would have something like BMI is assigned the value weight divided by height squared, which, easy enough to write that out, is height times height. And that's it. Now notice I put the brackets around this because I want that square to be complete before it does the division of the weight. So Bedmas is followed, and we got to make sure that we're doing everything in order, because it will read that equation from left to right. It's going to completely solve everything after the equals operator before it tries to perform the assignment statement. So that's the basics of this. Let's just to finish this off, if we wanted to keep going, we could do a simple document.write command. Document.write. The area is area. Oops. And that's the entire program. We don't have to do anything else from that. There is one shortcut we can do. Since these are known values, we know them at the very beginning of the program. In our future programs, those values might be entered in by the user or something, but for now, we know what they are at the very beginning of the program. So what we can do is we can actually simplify our lives and reduce our lines of code. If we do know the starting value of our length and width, we can actually put it right in the definition statement. We could say equals 5. And we could say equals 3.4. And we no longer need these two lines of code. They're gone. So if we do the math on this, we end up with a result of 17 stored in the value rec area here. Those are the quick shortcuts that we can do. There's other shortcuts that we'll get to later, but for now, this is the basics. Realize that any expression can be on the right-hand side of that equal sign. It will be evaluated before the assignment tries to take place, and then it'll be stored in the left-hand side of the expression. So that's the basics of values. There's a few more other things that we need to go through before our variable lesson is complete. So stay tuned.